Okay, here I have collated some of the differences which you need to know for your Living Cert course. So I have three or four here. So let me just quickly explain those things. So the first one is the difference between high level and the low level programming language. So there are two types of programming language where which is high level and the low level programming language. Low level programming language is more nearer to the system, nearer to the computer system, and high level programming language it works with a different set of words itself. So that's the first difference, because in high level programming language, for example Python, which you have worked on, you can use English like words for programs. You can use while, if, for, and because it's very flexible enough, because we just need to know the word set which is more English like, okay, and it's a more human friendly, so it's easy to write a program in high level programming language. But when it comes to a low level programming language, the programs are constrained by the processor's instructor set, and that set is too quite it's quite complex for us to memorize or think about or write a program about. So if you have learned, I mean, if you just go back and maybe do a Google search on low level programming language, then you will see how difficult it is to write a program, and to even to just to print a statement you might have to write a big chunk of code. Maybe sometimes it might be binary, or sometimes it might be some other hexadecimal or things like that. Okay, but with Python it is pretty easy. We can just write with a print statement, print, just you put that in two quotes and it is printed for you. Okay, second one is the programs, the high level programs which you are working which you have developed in Python, they are translated into machine code, maybe using an interpreter or a compiler. It depends on the programming language. And in the low level language, it directly runs on the machine. And the third one is the programs are machine independent. Like a Python program, if you run in any machine, it can be run on any other machine also. Okay, it really doesn't matter which system you ran the program, develop the program on. But low level programs are not like this. They are very much machine dependent. So a program which is developed for a machine might not run on another machine. You might have to tweak it depending on the instructor set of that particular machine. Okay, and some examples, it is Java, Python, etc. And here you have the assembly language, machine code, etc. Okay, now the second difference, what you have to know is the difference between the RAM and the ROM. So RAM, it's random access memory, and ROM is a read-only memory. So you might know the memory types. So if you don't know, please review that. It's actually a sure question which you might get for your Living Cert course. So let's see the differences. So random access memory, the first one is you can write onto RAM. So whenever you access a variable or you want to access some data, it is actually writing onto the random access memory, and from there the CPU will take and carry out the instruction. But ROM is just a read-only memory. You cannot write into that. It is usually used for the operating system BIOS, like basic input output system. So it is for the startup routine. So the startup routines will be written in ROM, and the system will read it and it will do the processing. The second one is it is volatile, and this is non-volatile. The contents will stay in the memory even if the power is switched off. The third point is RAM is mostly used for temporary storage of data, because we just store it for some time, and when we are taking another application, it will get overwritten and all these things. But ROM, it's a permanent storage of data. Once it is written, it is there. And here you can store around gigabytes of data, and ROM is a little bit less because it can store only megabytes of data. Okay. Okay, the third one is the difference between HTTP and HTTPS. So HTTP, as we know, is like hypertext transfer protocol. This is a protocol which we use to interact across the internet, and HTTPS is a secure version of that. So the first difference, what you can say, this is an unsecure way of transmission. The data which you are transmitting over HTTP is not secure. Anyone can access it and do this. HTTPS, no, it's a secure way of transaction, and usually it's HTTP is sent over port 80, and HTTPS is port 443. If at all possible, don't code this. It can change. Okay. But HTTP always works on the application layer. If you remember the communication protocols, there's a video which I posted last week. So there are different types of communication protocol, and within the TCP/IP protocol, we have different layers. So this HTTP works at the application layer, and HTTPS works at the transport layer. And here there's no SSL certificate required, and here there is an SSL certificate required, and this is nothing but it's for encryption of the data which you are trying to send it through the internet. Okay, I think this is the last one, and this is the difference between the primary and the secondary storage in a computer. So the primary storage is mostly RAM and the registers and all these things. So the primary storage is used for immediate use. So as and when the applications are opened, the data is stored onto the RAM and it is taken up. Secondary storage is the data which can be used anytime. Your hard disk is a secondary storage. So the data, you just store this data, you just create a folder, you just create a document, you enter some data and you just store it into the system, and that becomes the secondary storage. So primary storage, data is stored temporarily, but secondary storage, the data will be stored persistently. So if you're working on some document and you haven't saved it, the data is there in the RAM. So once you close it, it's gone. Okay, but the application will ask you whether you want to save it or not. That is a different case altogether. But otherwise, it is gone. But for the secondary storage, the data is stored persistently. If you have a document in the system, it is stored forever. Okay, primary storage, you can access the data faster because it is already there in the memory and the CPU has direct connection with the RAM, so it can just directly take it up. Secondary storage, it will be slow to access because you have to open it from the secondary storage and then you have to bring it to the memory and then do the processing. Primary storage is expensive, that's why we have less RAM, but the secondary storage is less expensive. And the secondary storage devices, you can have an external hard disk also, that is also an option, or internal hard disk also can be considered as a secondary storage, but external hard disk or any of the other options can be considered as a secondary storage. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you.